Alright, so lesson 5, learn the CSS box model by building a Rothko painting. Every HTML element is its own box with its own spacing and a border. This is called the box model. In this course, you'll use CSS and the box model to create your own Rothko style. Okay. So it will look like this. HTML. HTML. ATF-8. Title element. Title. Rothko painting. Image element. So in the CSX box model, every HTML element is treated as a box with 4 areas. So if you see box content, content is the item, content, and a paragraph. Change the src attribute in the image from that is surrounded by a space called padding, similar to how bubble wrap separates an item from the box around it. Think of the border as the cardboard box your item is shipped in. Margin is the area outside of the box and can be used to control the space between other boxes or elements. So here the bottom element has a larger top pin margin, pushing it further down the page. Now to understand the CSS box model, let's get started in Rothko painting. Remove the image element. Add a div element in the body. Class attribute equal to canvas. Here we need to link your CSS to your HTML. Add a link. Link rel equals style sheet. Href equals styles.css. Even though your div has no text, it's still treated as a box with content. Write the CSS rule that uses the .canvas class selector and set its width to 500 pixels. Height property 600 pixels. Background dash color 4D0F00. Every painting needs a frame wrapped to that canvas element in another div. So wrap the frame class. Write a new rule using dot frame selector. Border shorthand declaration border. 50px black solid. Nice. The frame is much too wide. So in that frame, set its width to 500 pixels. Use padding to adjust the spacing within an element. So in the dot frame, use the padding shorthand property to increase the space between the dot frame and canvas elements with 50px. 50px. Use margins to adjust the spacing outside of an element. So margin property, element vertical margin as 20px and an auto. Alright. New div element inside your canvas. Give the new div class 1. This will be your first rectangle. The dot one width would be 425px. Height be 150px. The background dash color would be EFB72. 762. Alright. Margins. So we'll put margin as 20px auto. That one is centered horizontally, but its top margin is pushing past the canvas and onto the frame's border, shifting the entire canvas down 20 pixels. So add the padding of 1px to give the one element something to push off. Okay. So adding 1 pixel padding to the top, bottom, left, and right of the canvas, change its dimension to 502, 602. Replace the padding property with overflow set hidden. Should remove the padding property. And another div with a class value of 2. This will be the second rectangle. Use CSS rule using dot to selector. Set its width to 475px and height set it to 200px. Background dash color set it to number 8 F0401. Margin set to auto. So we'll create another div with the class of 3. So the third rectangle. That's 3. Width 9 10%. Height be 20%. Background dash color and B20403. Center the dot 3 element on the canvas. Margin is set to auto. It's helpful to have your margins push in one direction, so in this case the bottom margin of the one element pushes 2 down 20 pixels. Into selector, use margin shorten property to set top property should set top margin to 0, horizontal margin to auto, and margin to 20px. The colors and shapes of your painting are too sharp to pass as a Rothko. Use the filter property to blur the painting by 2px in the canvas element. Here's an example. To filter, blur 2px. Okay. Create a rule that targets both 1 and 2. Dot 1, dot 2. Increase their blur, filter, blur 3px. Should be 1px. Increase the blur of 3. Filter, blur 2px. The rectangles are too small and their edges don't have the soft quality of a painting. Increase the area and soften the edges of 1 by setting its box shadow. Box dash shadow 0, 0, 3px, 3px, P762. Use the same box shadow declaration for 2 but change the color from add a box shadow to 3 with the values box dash shadow 0, 5px, 5px, B20403. The corners of each rectangle are still too sharp, so round each corner of the one element by 9 pixels. Border dash radius 9px. Okay. Border radius property and 2. Border dash radius. Set it top left radius and bottom right radius to 8px. Is it like this? Alright, so that's top, but left, top left, and bottom right to 8px, and then top right to bottom left. Border radius property accepts up to 4 values to round the top left, top right, and bottom left. Round the top left corner of 3 by 30 pixels. So border dash radius, top left is 30px, top right 25px, bottom right 60px, bottom left by 12px. Rotate each rectangle to give them more of an imperfect hand-painted look, so use transform property, rotate by counterclockwise. Is that negative 0.6 dig? I don't know. Let's try. Alright, that's correct. Rotate the dot to element clockwise by 4 decks. Transform. Rotate 0.4 degrees. Okay, so for 3, transform. Rotate clockwise to 0.2 degrees. Oh, negative because counterclockwise, so should be negative. Alright, so that's all. That's 45 steps. Next would be CSS Flexbox.